All right, so you should be able to hear me now. I haven't streamed from my laptop in a long time, so it's just taking me some time to get adjusted here. But looks like we should be good to go. We're about to get started now. All right. So I think audio-wise, this is probably not the best audio. You know what? Let me actually switch over to, even though it's not the best audio quality, the problem with the MacBook mic that I'm currently using is that you're gonna get a lot of like background noise. So I'm gonna switch over to my AirPods, okay? Okay, testing. All right, you should be able to hear me now. Maybe not the best audio quality in the world, but you at least won't hear a bunch of background noise. All right, so we're back in here and we're ready to go. All right, so welcome everyone to Office Hours. It's my first time in a long time streaming from my laptop. Right now, I'm on a trip outside of my home, so that's why I'm using this sort of janky setup that I'm doing right now. But hey, it's good to see you guys. So let me quickly. What's up, guys? And today I'm here to just answer any questions you guys have that you guys might have about your March SAT score reports. I know that some of you guys have gotten your score reports from the College Board by now, and maybe it's not very clear what you're supposed to do. So I'm happy to talk about it. I invited people on Discord to share me their entire score report by screenshot. But if you are going to be joining on YouTube chat, then the best you're going to be able to do is actually type out the data. Specifically, I'm interested not in your like I can't give you that much help on your math score. I can give you general guidance, but I can't give you specific guidance. So I'm here to help more with the reading and writing side. So if you can give me uh, your score as well as your sub scores for like those domains or whatever they call it, craft and structure and whatnot, and tell me how many bars you're missing, then that would be helpful. Okay. So I'm gonna scroll through Discord if no one replies in YouTube chat, and I'm going to see what I can say. But if you are here, to say hi and then let me know what your SAT reading writing score was and where your weakness specifically how many bars you're missing on craft and structure, information ideas, standard English conventions, and expression of ideas, okay? Meanwhile, let me try to share my screen again. Office hours here. All right. You know what? I'm gonna type what I said into the YouTube chat first so that at least people who are coming in late can know what I'm asking, which is share your, if you want my advice, share your SAT, March SAT reading writing score plus how many bars you're missing. How many bars you're missing on the four domains, craft and structure, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to paste this here. Cricklets, I see you. So let me actually start with you again. Open to the stream. Put Cricklets. You got 1380, 660 on reading, 1500. So you need at least a 700 on reading. and you want you're taking it in June, so you're trying to improve your English score. And if you can give me your four domain score, I could be a lot more specific with what you should be focusing on. Which so the four domains again are craft and structure, information ideas, standard English conventions, and expression of ideas. While I wait, I'm going to switch back to this view, and I'm just going to quickly skim through some of the chats from, here we go. Okay, it's a bit of a mess right now, but I'm just gonna leave my spot here, and I'm gonna go back to Cricklets. Cricklets is saying, okay, Cricklets is saying you got full bars on SEC, craft and structure. Oh, unusual not actually not unusual. Missing one bar, expression of ideas, and missing two bars in information ideas. Okay, that's actually pretty. You're in a pretty healthy place for that. That means with a 660 on reading, full bars. But you have a lot to improve on. So interesting how interesting how you actually have full bars on craft and structure. Okay. It's kind of unusual from I wasn't really expecting that for a 660 score. Let's talk about that's actually kind of an unusual profile, so I'm sort of thinking about it now for 660. So apparently, according to the College Board, you're close to a perfect score on on craft and structure and standard English conventions, which should be kind of hard for you. Uh, and you're weaker on information ideas and expression of ideas, but only three bars missing total with 660. So I feel like, is that a scaled thing? Dude, those domain scores are ridiculous. They don't like make any sense. All right, but bro, okay. You know what? I'm gonna assume they're kind of scaling the bars down to you, which is very unfair and very, very uninformative. And the College Board is honestly dropping the ball quite badly if they're being that vague about what your weaknesses are. Because I actually feel that the report is not helping you here. But I'm not going to get into speculation around how they're actually calculating that stuff and what they're actually conveying to you. But honestly a little offended at how uninformative those bars are. But I'm going to give my best guess at what you need to improve on. So here we go. If you're missing one bar in expression of ideas, but not missing any bars in standard English conventions, it means that you did the work of studying grammar. So you actually know when you read a sentence, right? You know like the moment at which that sentence is wrong, right? You see that comma or you see that semicolon, and then you keep reading like three or four more words, and then you realize why that sentence is wrong. It's because that apparently you're not making any mistakes there. That's a really good place to be. It means that your grammar is not your problem. Okay. But you are getting questions wrong on expression of ideas. What that means is you're probably not getting that many synthesis questions wrong. So synthesis questions is the notes question, right? Where you have the student notes on the left side, and then you have to like choose the sentence that makes a generalization and supports the generalization or whatever, right? So you're probably not getting a lot of those wrong, although it's possible you're getting tricked by one of them. But that's okay. I wouldn't really emphasize that one yet. Okay. Notes questions, the synthesis questions are ones that you don't have to prioritize until you're well above 700. Okay, because you're probably going to get like nine out of 10 of them correct. So actually, it's some of the transition questions that you're getting wrong instead. If you're getting the transition questions wrong, it means that you still don't really know the difference between something like by contrast and however. And you think that similarly and additionally are like synonyms, right? You still have some basic misunderstandings about like how some of these transitions work. Like you haven't really learned to that end yet. So these are words that literally you just need to learn, right? You just need to learn these words. And there's plenty of lists out there on the internet. And those lists aren't always like 100%. They don't really give you every information you need. So honestly, I think ChatGPT is your friend with these cases. Like, learn the lists first, but then once you learn the list, you'll realize that sometimes you still don't really understand what the difference is between similarly and additionally, or like by contrast and however, or never, or like granted, or that said, or to that end. There are some more tricky ones. ChatGPT is your friend. Just learn the transition words, and once you have the transition words kind of out of the way, then they're gonna throw away. Then the temptation is to get like kind of panicky around the really unusual ones where sometimes they'll say stuff like unsurprisingly. It's okay. You don't need to memorize all of those in advance. Okay. As long as you know all the basic ones are always 3 out of 4 of those answer choices anyway. As long as you know the 3 out of 4 basic ones all the time and you're 100% sure what they mean every single time, then you're going to be over the transition questions. And that's going to give you a little boost towards like getting towards like 700. But finally, you're at the information and ideas one. And here, this is where it's really crucial that you decide a strategy. Are you going to go with the general process elimination strategy that basically every other YouTuber slash tutor talks about, slash website talks about? Every other resource out there in the world always talks about process elimination. Are you going to continue with that strategy, or are you going to switch over to what I'm talking about in my streams, which is predict and match, where you read the passage first, you make a prediction before looking at the answer choices, and then you match it, and then you move on. If you decide to switch over to predict and match strategy, you need to focus, I think, right now, primarily on probably the data questions, where it talks about tables and graphs. And you can save like a crazy amount of time by predicting and matching on the data questions, especially the harder ones. And you'll be able to just like get up to 700 just from that. Like, transitions and data questions, just being able to predict and match those, you'll be able to hit that 700. And then if you want further growth from there, we're probably going to need to talk about other things besides that. But I think transitions and data questions by themselves will be good enough for you to get over that edge, get over that line there. No Mo Recluse is saying you got a 710 and you have a bar off of craft and structure and expression ideas, and you're aiming for 750. Okay. So no more recluse is saying, oh no, wait, no more clues. Oh my God. No more clues. Got it. My bad. So no more clues is saying, he wants a 750 and has one bar off of craft and structure and information ideas. So for you, I'm going to guess that again, you've done all the grammar studying, so all the sort of, and you've done all the grammar studying, you've all actually already done all the transitions studying, so you're not really getting any of those wrong. And in fact, you might even be starting, when you solve the test, you might be starting at question 15, right? Where the grammar starts, and then you kind of scoop up all your time. Like you save questions 1 through 14 or 1 through 15 or 1 through 16 sometimes till the second half of the reading and writing. That's okay. I don't hate that idea. I don't generally recommend that idea either. We can talk about that more in detail in the future. But for now, the thing is that when it comes to reading, you probably spend a lot of time just sort of like going in circles, especially what like again, like these online resources, these tutors, these websites, these YouTubers, they'll talk about the 50-50s. What are you supposed to do with the 50-50s, right? And so you spend a lot of time in 50-50 situations. And so you're like between B and then D and then B and then D and then B and then D. And you feel like when you're doing the B and the D and the B and the D, you're just like analyzing it to death. And at some point, you're like going into the overthinking territory and you don't know if you're overthinking or not. You're just like, and so probably up until now, unless you've really studied a lot of my streams, probably up until now you're really just like doing those like tricks where it's like, okay, B versus D. Which one has the extreme terminology? And you look for the extreme terminology, and then you try to, and then neither of them have the extreme terminology, right? B versus D. Which one is like quoting the text directly? And you look for them, and like you're trying to eliminate the one that quotes the text directly, right? And so these are like the little like heuristics that you're sort of applying, right? Um, does it have extreme terminology? Does it have like, does it directly quote the text? And you're trying to knock them out based on these sort of statistical guesses, right? Um, yeah, that's not going to help you get 750, honestly. Those heuristics, those like little statistical games that you play, they're really good for getting you from like 550 up to 650. And you can even squeeze them till you get 700. It's not really going to help you that much. And this is where you kind of have to make the decision. Do you want to kind of luck your way to a 750 and just take the test like, five more times? Or do you want to like take control of the situation and start predicting the answers on your own? So, um, get other people's opinions, but dude, I promise you, if you just read the passage and predict the answer without looking at the answer choices, okay, you would be surprised at how many times you can actually predict the answer. You will be surprised at how many times you can actually predict the answer. And when you predict the answer, now you're no longer playing with like these dumb heuristics of like, what's like the extreme answer choice? Let's eliminate that one. You're actually thinking, which answer choice makes more sense with my prediction based on the passage, right? And that's a huge shift. And it seems like it might be a lot more work to switch to that kind of strategy because you might think that predicting it will take way too much time to read. And it's true, predicting does take more time to read, but when you have real predictions, then you no longer have to do the stupid heuristics anymore, right? If you watch my stream, count how many like take watch one of my streams for one of the harder practice tests like Blue Book 7 or whatever, and take one of the hard questions, right? And see how much time, like count how much time I actually spend on the right side of the page. You'll notice that whereas you spend like 2 minutes on the right side of the page between A and then B and then C and then D, for me, on the right side of the page, I'm spending like 20 seconds or less, right? And that's because I know what my answer is supposed to be. So yes, I might spend 30 more seconds than you on the left side of the page, but I save a minute compared to you on the right side of the page on the hard questions, and that's how I'm getting those last questions right. So again, no more clues. You're probably dropping points, and you're probably just wasting a lot of time at this point, just trying to do a lot of process elimination tricks instead of just figuring out what the passage is actually saying and then predicting your own answer. And now is sort of the time when you're trying to get to that 750 mark where that really matters, where it really matters that you actually have the confidence that the right answer is always the right answer. Okay, so my recommendation again for you is to learn to just predict the answer and to match the answer according to your prediction. Mushi is saying, SAT results. You want me to go over yours? Okay, so I'll go over yours in a second right now. But before I go back to Mushi, let me tell Darcy, go ahead and share your bars as well, your craft and structure, standard English conventions, um, standard wait craft and structure, information ideas, standard English conventions, and expression ideas, because that's going to help me give you specific examples. Although it does seem like you're in a pretty extreme situation, so I already know what I think I need to say to you, Darcy, but it helps anyway, no matter what, for me to see your domain scores. Okay, so there are 4 domain scores. Please tell me how many bars you're missing on those domain scores. So Mushime, go back to you. Let me actually switch over my view to you in Discord. So in Discord, you said, "Oh, I'm literally looking at yours right now." But Mishi, actually, you're in the same situation. You didn't really tell me your domain scores, so I can't really give you any tips. The only person that gave me domain scores, uh, okay, this is the only person. Um, Dick gave me domain scores, so I can come back to Dick in a second. Okay, So I'm going to start with Tivodik, and then I'm going to switch over to the to chat afterwards. So let me talk to Tivodik right now. Uh, Hang on, let me actually stream replying to this now on in YouTube stream timestamp 2030. Okay. So Tivodik is 630 with expression. Oh, so with perfect grammar, and weakness in craft and structure, especially with some weakness in expression ideas. Actually, Tivodik is kind of interesting because he's kind of a combination of what I've said for the previous two students, but I would emphasize actually a lot more on, especially if Tivodik's target score is kind of like for like June or August, like there's a little bit of time. I would actually recommend two question types first, okay? For expression of ideas, really focus on the transition question type. And again, first start with all the lists that are out there, right? Like the howevers versus the by contrast. They are not the same thing, okay? Similarly versus additionally or in addition. They are not the same thing, okay? Granted, given something, actually, given doesn't come out, but granted, that said, you know, to that end, some of these trickier ones also, just like learn these. And there's lists out there. Just Google transition words, right, for the SAT and just find those transition words and then memorize them. And then not, don't just memorize the list itself, like learn in which situation you get to use any of these words, right? So memorize all those first and use ChatGPT to help because a lot of times these like online resources can be pretty, they actually sometimes are wrong, so make sure to use ChatGPT to double check how to actually use it. ChatGPT is not bad for these kinds of questions. Okay, so learn the transition questions, transition words, and then for craft and structure specifically focus on the word and context questions. Um, I think you really probably need to learn to predict the correct word first. And whenever there's like words in the craft instruction questions that you just haven't learned, like add that to your personal vocab list. But regardless of whether you have the vocabulary that's sufficient to always know for sure the correct answer, you may sometimes run into situations when the correct answer is a word that you don't know. For now, that's okay. I think you need to focus more on just predicting the right answer first. So write the prediction down for the word and context questions for what you think the right answer should be, and try to just develop confidence in the prediction first. And then when you look at ABCD, those are, usually it's just literally four words you have to compare against. Just make sure that you can at least eliminate the ones that don't match with your prediction. If you eliminate the ones that don't match with your prediction, then you might get stuck 50-50, or you might literally have one answer choice remaining. Just make a 50-50 choice by guessing, right? Because if you literally don't know those two words, then you're just gonna have to guess. Um, or if there's only one answer choice left based on your prediction, then just choose that one last word and then add those words to your vocab list. Just double check that the word that you predicted and the word that you actually chose, they actually have the same meaning. So you develop your vocabulary, but you also develop the ability to look at a passage, figure out the logic, and actually predict the answer on your own. And if you do that, then you're going to be much better off just by improving your transitions and your word and context and just developing the ability to predict the answer choices. You should be able to get like a 30 to 50 point increase. So then you're now at like the range of like 680 at that point. Okay, let me look at I'm seeing some follow-up answers from no more. Wait, from Darcy. Okay, some Darcy and Cricklets, but I'm just gonna go back to Mushi Mango because Mushi Mango is helping has sent his scores. So Mushimango's at 640 right now with okay, Mushimango's giving me sort of American vibes here. So Mushimango, if you are in America and you're struggling with grammar, okay, I think the real for you the answer is pretty clear. You really do need to you really do need to. Like, this is your problem here. Okay. Uh, you, right now, you don't really know when you read a sentence right now, you don't really know the moment at which it's wrong, right? And here I'm gonna actually, for your sake, I'm gonna give you a specific example of what I mean. Um, conventions hard. So give you let me actually look at a specific example here. Okay, so there are so many. I want to just expand this. Okay, okay, here we go. Please. Okay, there we go. All right. So when I look at a sentence like this, this actually one is probably not too hard. In paleontology, the term Elvis taxon gets applied to a newly identified living species. Um, this one's more of a logic question, so I'm gonna skip this one. This one's less about, although you probably do need to learn this one as well. You know what? No, let me finish. This is not really a grammar one. This is more logic, and sometimes the grammar questions hide logic questions. So just be ready for this. Here, you have to just know, okay, that this sentence over here, we're talking about the Elvis taxon generally. Like an Elvis impersonator who might bear a striking resemblance to the late musical icon Elvis Presley himself, an Elvis Taxon is not the real thing. It is a misidentified lookalike. Okay. Uh, Here, the however is connecting the idea that the Elvis taxon gets applied to a guy, but the Elvis taxon is not the real thing. However. But it isn't the real thing. So this is basically the logic question. And then it is a misidentified lookalike. Oh my God, this is actually not that hard. So I don't know. This should not be in the advanced section, but whatever. Let's look at a different one. I need right now the topic is you not knowing when a sentence is wrong. Okay, you not knowing when a sentence is wrong. So here we go. Let's. This is also not super hard. Interestingly, studies have identified two groups of people that chromesthesia is particularly common in musicians and composers. I'm just going to move on from this one. Um, let's look at this one. Okay, this one might be closer to what I'm talking about. Okay, right now, if you're missing like two bars on Mushi, if you're missing two bars on your grammar, like it's like literally you'll read this kind of thing. As Spivak points out, Seville is not the protagonist of Shelley's novel. Rather, no, wait, this one's kind of easy. God damn it. Khan Academy, you're not helping me. Khan Academy, please give me something that I can work with. Lithium is commonly extracted in Chile, where it is drawn from brine reservoirs. Australia, where miners blast lithium from hard rock mineral, spodumene, and China. Okay, at this point, you this is a list. I mean, this is probably a little bit more straightforward, but the thing here is that when you look at in Chile, comma, where it is drawn from brine reservoirs, you might be tempted to use a comma at first here. But for me, the moment that I know that has to be a semicolon is as literally the moment that I read Australia. Because when I see Australia, I see Australia, and then I come back to Chile, and then later on I'm going to see China. So I see those three things working as a list. And then specifically, I see this comma after Chile, and then we have this little modifier from where it is drawn from brine reservoirs, right? That modifier, where it is drawn from brine reservoirs, gives me this idea that that little modifier is describing Chile, and therefore, when we have the second item in the list, Australia, we're going to need that semicolon. So at this moment, I know immediately that as soon as I see Australia, comma where, Australia, comma, where. That moment that I see that where and I see this where, I know it has to be a semicolon, and I'm just confirming it when I see this final semicolon and China which, right? So that has that parallel structure. And so when I'm reading the sentence, there's like this moment that I realize what that sentence structure is supposed to be, and then I can make that decision on what the right answer is based on that. And if going back to you, if you're missing these two bars, you're not at that level, right? Because you haven't really learned all the various structures of sentences. And so you need to go back and just like learn, dude, just like independent clauses, dependent clauses, how do you connect those? Then relative clauses, how do you connect those? And then semicolons, when do you use semicolons? You use it for lists, you use it for double independent clauses. Okay, like learn all the basic grammar, and right now, all I can suggest is like buying a grammar book and just boost that up. Once you have that, then you'll be able to get towards like a 680 to 700 just by mastering the grammar, and just all these unnecessary points that you're dropping, you can recover all of that, get up to like a 700, because it sounds like you actually have a pretty good base reading comprehension ability. You just need to up your grammar. Okay, that took a much longer time to explain than I expected just because Khan Academy really wasn't helping me. It was giving me too many easy questions. So, gonna go back on track with YouTube chat. Here we are. So, Darksea says 680 on math, 800, 780, 770 on the practice tests. Perfect. Oh, you're asking me okay, you're asking me math. And I'm Asian, but dude, I can't actually help you with math. But here's what I can say. When you're scoring 800, 780, 770, and then suddenly 680, it is not a concept issue, okay? It's definitely a test taking issue. And what that means is you're probably giving yourself too many decisions to make. When you go into the test, you're leaving too many decisions up for grabs. Like it's too open-ended the way you solve the test. I don't really know what that looks like on math because I don't tutor math. I don't focus on math. Math is not my passion. So I don't really have a lot to say there. But like when it comes to like questions, like for reading, for example, some people, right, they have a strategy in reading where they start with the grammar questions first and then they go to the reading questions second, right? And some people, they just go from questions 1 through 27, just in linear order, right? Well, the most important thing on test day is to not doubt the way you used to do it, right? The way you used to do it, Darcy, you used you used to get 800 and 780 and 770, right? So the way you're doing it is pretty good, right? But suddenly, sometimes kids in your position will go to the real test and they'll panic, and so they've been solving it from questions 1 through 27 linearly this entire time for like the last 3 months leading up to the March SAT. But then suddenly on test day, they look at question one and it's like, I don't like that question. And then they look at question two, it's like, oof, I feel off. Question three, maybe they got lucky. It's like, okay, that one's easy, thank God. But question four and five and six, it makes them feel uncomfortable. And then suddenly, out of fucking nowhere, they're like, wait, literally last night at 10 p.m., I watched a YouTuber tell me that it's better to do the grammar questions first and then to do the reading questions first. What if I changed my strategy now on test day on something I've never tried before, right? I'm gonna just experiment with my real test. And so they panic and they completely change that decision making, a decision they've never ever taken before. They take it for the first time on test day. Does that ever pay off? It basically maybe one in 10,000 times it might pay off. Dude, it basically never pays off. You've already been doing it a certain way the entire 3 months leading up to this test. Why is it that you're making new decisions that you've never made on test day, right? You're leaving things too open-ended. Now, I don't really know what that looks like on math. I just gave a specific reading and writing example on how, your decision making might change on test day. It doesn't have to be about sequence of questions, It could be about like literally within a question, like kind of where your eyes are going. If you look at the patterns of your eye movements, you might notice that a panicking self kind of acts differently from a calm self, right? So there's many different ways that you can kind of mess up your decision making by opening it up too much on test day. But you definitely panicked, okay? If you were solving it at 800 and 770 and 780 before the test and then suddenly got a 680, you panicked. You changed something. Sorry, you panicked, and as a result, you changed something, and you maybe changed more than one some things, and then that led you to just perform much worse than you normally did. So I strongly urge you to start codifying what your actual test taking process is, and to really build up belief in that test taking process, and then and then on test day to just commit to it, to just go balls out and just believe in the way that you've studied and prepared for the thing, and just push it through. Cricklets is saying you scored lower on craft and structure, uh, and your information ideas was low because the questions come out at the end of the reading modules. Actually, they don't. They come out in the middle, so you didn't attempt those questions. But yeah, Cricklets, it sounds like I was actually right about you. You start with a grammar, and then so you go from 15 through 27, and then you go from 1 through 14. So you ran out of time. You didn't even attempt those questions. My recommendation for saving time is actually still the same. Because Cricklets, aren't you the one that's trying to get 750? Uh, oh no, no, you're different. You're the one trying to get 700. And I told you earlier that you need to do transitions and you need to start making predictions. Yeah, I mean, you're in a sort of awkward situation where I would actually like. I mean, actually, for you, I left it kind of open-ended. I actually didn't say you need to move into predictions and matching. I said that you need to make a decision, whether you want to keep using the heuristics, like the sort of like statistical methods where you spend, 70% of your time on the right side of the page and you're looking at A and you're looking at B and you're looking at C and you're looking at D and you're just like doing cross elimination. Like if you're okay, if you're okay with that strategy, I'm gonna tell you that strategy is gonna cap out. You're not really gonna consistently break above 720 with that strategy. Unless you're like super overpowered and you're like not just a straight A student, you're kind of a genius. Then it doesn't. When you're a genius, it kind of doesn't matter what strategy you use. You're still going to be able to get like 800. But the fact that you're getting 660 plus you might be using like the cross elimination strategies and whatever, you're probably not a genius. I'm sorry. So you gotta make a decision. Are you okay with like a 700, maybe lucking out and getting like a 730? If you are, it's okay for you not to change your strategy. You can just stick with the sort of like cross elimination heavy approach, right? A versus B versus C versus D versus B versus D versus B versus D Look for these kinds of synonyms, look for these kinds of antonyms, look for this kind of extreme words, look for these kinds of tone words, look for these kind of quotation, and you're basically running like an algorithm on the answer choices, which is, it's not reading. You're not reading. You're just using a bunch of tricks, right? You can do that. It's fine. But you have to know that you're not really going to break 730 consistently with that kind of strategy. Okay. So, in that case, to manage time, just move on faster, right? Just make a guess, bookmark, come back. Make a guess, bookmark, come back. Just do that a little bit more and just kind of tweak the timing there because you're sort of already mature in the way that you're taking that test, in that particular strategy. You just need to learn to bookmark, move on, come back, right? But conversely, maybe you want to look for maybe you want to look for more of a like long-term growth that you're not happy to cap out at 720, 730 uh, in like 2 or 3 months. You actually want like a 750, 780, and you want to actually grow past that. Well, that actually requires you to read. And especially for those hard questions, you need to learn to like predict the answer. So read the passage, predict the answer, and then try to find the answer choice that matches your answer perfectly. And you just keep doing that over and over and over, and then your brain will eventually evolve around the passage types, and you'll learn how the passages are actually construing meaning, and then you can derive that meaning, and you take the question, and that helps you narrow the focus, and then you predict the answer, right? That is something that will probably drop your score for a bit because you're like now you're switching your strategy altogether and you're having to custom yourself to like a new workflow. So you're not going to see immediate gains. If anything, you're very likely to see like a score drop off at first. But then once you learn to adjust to this, you're going to have a much higher ceiling because now you're not capped off at these sort of like statistical guessing games. Oh, talking so much. Ugh. Okay, guys, I have 15 minutes before I need to go, and I have been talking so fast that I'm starting to like spit on my own computer at this point. So let me. All right, I don't have a lot of energy left, but guys, I hope that my answers are at least clarifying for you what your issues are. But if I'm talking like if I'm just like shooting like sunlight up your ass, like please tell me what part of my advice isn't really working for you. Tell me what's not working for you, and specifically narrow down like using. Tell me in chat what the thing is that you're confused about. Okay. Now I'm looking at so cricklets. Let me summarize that for you. To nail down your timing, the problem with you is that you're at an awkward position in your test taking where you have to choose between process eliminations, uh, a strategy oriented around process elimination versus a new strategy oriented around predict and match. Depending on what you choose, your time management strategy will differ. All right, so I'm looking at Renee is saying 740 reading writing, 750 math. You're missing some points on domains of expression ideas. 1540. Okay, oh, you do better on math with practice tests. Okay, if you want 1540, oof. I mean, this is kind of yeah, you're kind of at the final stretch, so you're already kind of in the 1500 range. So for you, the problem with kids in the 1500 range is that it becomes highly individualized. So it's actually not very helpful for me to only see that one that you're weak on. So Renee, can you tell me all four of your domains for English for the reading writing? Now, expression ideas, it looks like you're actually getting 2 points, 2 bars off, which is kind of a lot actually. Maybe that's even three, which if that's actually the case, then that means you're getting full bars on all three other ones, right? So I'm not too, um, that makes you a very peculiar profile. And in that case, it actually might be easier for me to give you advice, but I just need some confirmation here. Can you confirm that you have full bars on all three of the other domains, and it's only expression ideas where you're missing like two bars? Um, Once you confirm, I'll be able to give you a better, more confident uh, piece of advice. But going back to Wedge, Wedge is saying you love the US of A. We do have a good accent. Uh, I mean, America's kind of, I don't know, see, it's kind of cursed right now, but I don't know, man. I don't even want to talk about America right now. Don't even get me on it. All right, shut up. All right, so being an Asian in math is too easy. Um, yeah, English can be kind of hard. So yeah, I can give you more advice if you let me know the details of your English course. Ah, expression of ideas. Oh, one bar missing. Dude, you're already. Oh, honestly, for Renee, I don't think it's a knowledge issue. Yeah, it's not a knowledge issue. So it's definitely, from what I can tell, your problem is largely test taking, and um, this there's too many variables now. So it's hard for me to give like a sort of one size fits all. I mean, I do have one size fits all advice for you. Maybe it'll land, maybe it won't. So because your situation is a little bit more, and this is not just the view, it's basically anyone who is above 730. It starts getting a little trickier trying to give advice, but my most one size fits all advice is probably it's the test taking and like normally what we call time management. Although honestly, when you are at the 730 and above range, time is not your your scarcest resource is not time. Time is not your scarcest resource. Your scarcest resource is confidence. And so now it's really pivoting from a model where you're primarily worrying about how much time do I have to worrying more about which questions am I lacking confidence in, right? And and the way to improve confidence is to start predicting and matching your answers. Like that's how you have to measure your confidence levels on all of the questions, and you have to have a very, very pure signal, a clean signal of which questions you don't have high confidence on. And then you need to start taking the test in a way where you can allocate your time towards the ones where your confidence is not high. And so there's a lot of intermediate steps to making that transition, and it's actually unclear for me, Renee, by the way, whether you even know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about predict and match. But predict and match is not the same as process elimination, although they can work together. It's just that I am a predict and match first tutor, okay, whereas most predict and match is a word I had to invent because it basically doesn't exist on the internet. Like, like you, everyone else talks about process elimination, okay, on the internet at least. So you gotta, assuming that you are familiar with what I'm talking about, that you know the way that I solve the test and the way that I teach people to solve the test, then really it's just a matter of learning to blend predicting and matching. And then when that fails, what do? You switch over to process elimination. But how do you limit the time spent on process elimination? You keep it very, very tight. Then you bookmark it, you come back, and then you take like a sort of bird's eye view of where you're lacking confidence, and you have to sort of allocate your time like that. Because the fact that you got that one bar off on expression of ideas doesn't really mean anything. It means that you ran out of time at the end of the module, and you just had to rush. And probably the reason you ran out of time at the end of the module is because like one of those graph questions where you were supposed to spend 2 minutes on the first pass through using my strategy, and then you kind of are left with like a 50-50, not like a 70-30 medium confidence guess, right? On like an A rather than like a C, right? Instead of spending 2 minutes and then just bookmarking and moving on, what actually happened is you were like, ah, but C though. And then so you kind of reread C, even though you're 30% confident on C, right? You're just like rereading C over and over and over again. And then you probably spent like 3 minutes and a half rereading the passage and then rereading C. And then you spent all that time on that question and you did similar things, although maybe not to that extent. You did similar things on two other questions. And so you ended up having to rush at the end. And that's your problem. So yeah, that one's really tricky. And honestly, the best way to improve that kind of thing is to have somebody just like watch your decision making and try to improve your decision making in real time. Because it's definitely not knowledge that you're lacking. Yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. I mean, I know I kind of like that was probably like a mouthful, honestly, to hear, uh, but if I had to summarize that into like one line, Renee, it's probably not knowledge that you're lacking. It's probably not even like the ability to follow instructions and like intellectually process the instructions that you've been given. It's probably just like moment to moment decision making. Are you strategically allocating your time to the questions where you're lacking confidence? And you're probably not. You're probably just not being strategic with that. So to improve that, if I had $0 to spend and I could not afford any resources besides free resources, I would probably start making video recordings of myself, and I would probably really just go back over those video recordings and just ask myself, was I really making the best decision here? Was I really making the best decision here? Was I really making the best decision here? And just keep analyzing every step of my process and see where and look for the opportunities where I was making bad decisions. If you have, money for tutoring, then a tutor could help you with that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really here to sell my services, so I don't really need to. Yeah, um, I don't really want to use a stream for that. But if you are curious, you can email me. My email is in the description below. Actually, I kind of kind of don't want to sell tutoring. I'm busy enough as it is, but yeah. But actually, your situation is actually fairly easy to fix after. It's a fairly easy fix once you know exactly what the problem is. So it is. You can be kind of hopeful about that particular situation. All right, guys. It looks like there's no other questions for me in terms of your March SAT. So hopefully this was helpful for you. If this was, please hit the like button. Let people know that this stream, let YouTube know that this stream is worth pumping the algorithm, pumping the algorithm with, uh, and uh, and help me out a little bit. So, guys, if you have further questions, but you couldn't ask it because you didn't really have the time to formulate that question within time, it's okay. You can still chat with me or chat with the community rather in Discord server. In the Discord server, whose link you can find in the description down here somewhere. Okay, so go and ask me there. Otherwise, you can drop comments in YouTube chat, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, Uh, I didn't really prepare this in advance, but I do have, you know what? I didn't really prepare in advance. I have some thoughts about what's going to happen next, but you know what? Never mind. I'll save that for next time. So, hey guys, until next time, I'll keep on learning, keep on growing, and I'll see you then. Peace.